Have you ever felt that life's struggles and attachments weigh you down, leaving you searching for something deeper? What if I told you that the secret to true peace isn't found in having more, but in understanding less clinging, less judgment, and less illusion? Today, we're unlocking the profound wisdom of emptiness, a teaching that can change everything you know about yourself and the world. Welcome to Sacred Buddha Wisdom. In this video, we'll explore the transformative Buddhist concept of emptiness, Shunyata. Far from being about nothingness or denial, this wisdom opens the door to interconnectedness, compassion, and ultimate liberation. By the end of this journey, you'll not only understand emptiness but also see how it can enrich your daily life. So, let's begin. Section 1, Introduction to Emptiness. Let's begin with a question. What comes to your mind when you hear the word emptiness? Perhaps it sounds like a void, a lack of meaning, or even a denial of life itself. But in Buddhism, emptiness holds a completely different and profound meaning, one that can transform how we see ourselves and the world around us. At its heart, emptiness isn't about absence or nothingness. It's about understanding the true nature of reality. Everything we experience, our thoughts, feelings, relationships, and even the physical world, exists not as fixed or independent entities but as part of an interconnected, ever-changing flow. Nothing has an inherent, permanent essence. Instead, everything arises due to causes and conditions. Now, this might sound unsettling at first. Some people mistake emptiness for nihilism, believing it means life is meaningless or that we must reject the world. But that's not what Buddhism teaches. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Emptiness is a call to embrace life as it truly is, dynamic, impermanent, and deeply interconnected. It frees us from rigid attachments and opens us to boundless compassion and wisdom. So, if everything, including you and me, is empty of a fixed self, what does that mean for who we truly are? Does it make us insignificant? Or could it be the key to ultimate freedom? Stay with me, and we'll uncover the answer together. To truly understand emptiness, we need to explore its roots in Buddhist philosophy. It's a teaching that asks us to look deeply, not at the surface of life, but at its interconnected essence. Let's begin with the words of the Buddha himself. In what is seen, there is only the seen. This simple yet profound statement invites us to strip away our mental filters, the attachments, judgments, and aversions that distort our perception of reality. It's an invitation to experience life directly, as it is, without clinging to illusions. The Heart Sutra takes this teaching even further. Its most famous line says, "Form is emptiness, and emptiness is form." At first, this might sound like a paradox. How can the physical, tangible world be the same as emptiness? The sutra reminds us that nothing exists independently, everything is shaped by the conditions around it. Nagarjuna, one of the greatest Buddhist philosophers, expanded on this idea. He explained that emptiness is not denial. It's the middle way, a path that avoids two extremes. On one side, there's eternalism, the belief that things have a fixed, permanent essence. On the other, nihilism, the belief that nothing exists at all. Nagarjuna teaches us that emptiness is neither. It's the truth that everything is empty of inherent existence yet deeply interdependent. This brings us to one of Buddhism's core teachings, dependent origination. The Buddha described it simply. When this exists, that arises. When this ceases, that ceases. Everything we see, touch, or experience arises because of causes and conditions. Imagine a piece of fabric. It's strong and whole. But pull out a single thread, and the entire structure begins to unravel. Life works the same way. Nothing stands alone, everything depends on something else to exist. This insight into interdependence is the very foundation of understanding emptiness. But if everything depends on something else, how can we ever find stability or peace? Could it be that embracing this impermanence is the key to true freedom? Let's explore further. Section 3: Daily Life Analogies for Interdependence. Understanding emptiness might seem abstract, but its beauty lies in how deeply it connects to everyday life. Let's explore how the interdependence at the heart of emptiness shows up all around us, in ways you might not even notice. Example 1. A tree's interdependence. Take a tree, for instance. At first glance, it seems like a single, solid entity standing strong and independent. But look closer. Its existence depends on sunlight, water, soil, air, and even the roots that connect it to the earth. It also relies on seeds from other trees and the creatures, like birds or the wind, that carried those seeds. Without these countless interactions, there would be no tree. Now, think about this: if a tree isn't truly independent, could the same be said about us? Example 2. The wave and the ocean. Here's another analogy: the wave and the ocean. When you see a wave, you might point to it and say, "That's a wave." But where does the wave end and the ocean begin? Can the wave exist without the water beneath it or the wind driving it? In truth, the wave is just a temporary form within the vastness of the ocean. And just like the wave, we, too, are temporary expressions of a larger interconnected whole. Example 3. Everyday object. Let's bring this closer to home. Look at a cup you use every day. It seems like just a cup, right? But its existence depends on so many factors: the clay it's made from, the potter who shaped it, the fire that baked it, and even the purpose we assign to it. Without these conditions, it wouldn't be a cup at all, it might just be a lump of clay. So, if a cup, a wave, and a tree all depend on countless causes and conditions to exist, what does that say about us and the lives we live? The interdependence we see in nature and objects isn't just a concept, it's a reminder that we're all deeply connected. Recognizing this can change how we see the world, not as a collection of isolated things, but as a beautiful, interwoven web of life. Script, Section 4: Meditation and Mindfulness, Experiencing Emptiness. Now that we've explored the philosophy of emptiness and its presence in daily life, how do we truly experience it? The answer lies in practice, specifically through meditation and mindfulness. These aren't just techniques, they're doorways to seeing the interconnected nature of reality firsthand. Let's start with a simple meditation exercise. Close your eyes if you can, and take a deep breath. As you sit quietly, notice your thoughts as they arise. Don't try to control them, just watch them, like clouds passing through the sky. Ask yourself, where does this thought come from? Where does it go? Is it solid and permanent? Or does it appear and fade away like a ripple in water? Over time, you'll notice something remarkable: your thoughts aren't as fixed or real as they seem. They come and go, conditioned by countless influences. Now, shift your attention to your body. We often think of our body as me or mine, but look deeper. What is the body made of? Skin, bones, blood, and countless cells, all dependent on food, air, water, and the conditions around us. None of these parts alone make up you. As the Buddha said, this body is not yours, nor does it belong to others. It arises and ceases due to karma and conditions. This reflection helps loosen our attachment to the body, allowing us to see it as a temporary collection of elements, not something to cling to. Meditation and mindfulness aren't just about sitting quietly, they're tools for transformation. Through them, we can observe the impermanence of thoughts, emotions, and sensations. We can see how everything we experience is interconnected, arising and fading away like the ebb and flow of a tide. By practicing regularly, we begin to experience life with greater clarity and ease. Instead of reacting to challenges with fear or frustration, we respond with wisdom and compassion. This is the power of mindfulness. It brings the concept of emptiness to life in a deeply personal way. So, what happens when we stop clinging to our thoughts and see them for what they really are? Could this simple shift unlock a deeper sense of freedom and peace? Let's continue to explore. Experiencing emptiness isn't about escaping the world, it's about engaging with it fully. With a clear and open mind. Every breath, every thought, every moment becomes an opportunity to touch the interconnectedness of life. Section 5: Compassion and Emptiness. Understanding emptiness isn't just about personal insight, it's about how we relate to others and the world. When we see that nothing has a fixed, independent self, a profound realization emerges: we are all deeply connected. This realization naturally gives rise to compassion. Think about this: if we truly understand that no one is separate, that everyone's happiness and suffering are interconnected, how can we not care for others? Emptiness shows us that the struggles we face are not so different from the struggles of others. The Dalai Lama often says, the more we care for the happiness of others, the greater our own sense of well-being becomes. This isn't just a moral teaching, it's the natural result of understanding emptiness. When we let go of the illusion of a solid, separate self, compassion flows effortlessly. Imagine someone cuts you off in traffic. Your immediate reaction might be anger. But when you reflect on emptiness, you might pause and think, what conditions led to this moment? Perhaps they're rushing because of an emergency. Or they're distracted by worries. This perspective doesn't justify bad behavior, but it helps us respond with understanding instead of anger. Here's another example: a friend or family member says something hurtful. Instead of holding on to resentment, consider the interconnected causes behind their words: stress, misunderstanding, or even their own pain. When we see the bigger picture, it becomes easier to forgive and respond with kindness. Compassion rooted in emptiness isn't limited to people we know, it expands to all beings. Imagine a drop of water falling into the ocean. The drop doesn't lose itself, it becomes part of something much greater. In the same way, when we embrace emptiness, we stop seeing others as separate from us. Their joy becomes our joy. Their pain becomes our concern. This is the heart of true compassion. But if there is no solid self and no independent other, then what is compassion? Is it possible to care deeply without attachment? Let's explore how emptiness answers this question. Compassion and emptiness are two sides of the same coin. By understanding the interconnected nature of life, we naturally open our hearts to others. And in caring for others, we find a deeper sense of connection and peace within ourselves. Section 6: Challenges and Rewards of Emptiness. Embracing the concept of emptiness isn't always easy. For many, the idea can feel unsettling, even frightening. After all, if there's no fixed self, what does that mean for our identity, our relationships, or the things we hold dear? These challenges are part of the journey, but the rewards make it deeply worthwhile. Challenge 1: Fear of losing identity. One of the most common struggles is the fear of losing who we are. Without a solid, unchanging self, people wonder, who am I? But this fear comes from misunderstanding. Emptiness doesn't mean you cease to exist, it means you are more dynamic, adaptable, and interconnected than you ever imagined. Think of a river. It's always moving, always changing. Yet we still call it a river. In the same way, you are not defined by a single, unchanging identity. You are a flowing combination of experiences, thoughts, and conditions. Challenge 2: Letting go of attachments. Another challenge is letting go of attachments, whether to possessions, ideas, or even loved ones. Letting go doesn't mean we stop caring. Instead, it means we hold everything with a light touch, knowing that clinging leads to suffering. Imagine holding sand tightly in your fist. The tighter you grip, the more it slips through your fingers. But when you open your hand, the sand rests there naturally. Emptiness teaches us to open our hands to life. Reward 1: Inner freedom. The first reward of understanding emptiness is inner freedom. When we stop clinging to rigid ideas about ourselves and the world, we experience a lightness and ease. We no longer feel trapped by our fears, past mistakes, or societal expectations. Instead, we flow with life's changes, just like a river adapting to its path. Reward 2: Resilience in challenges. Emptiness also gives us resilience. Life will always have ups and downs, losses, conflicts, and uncertainties. But when we see that everything is interconnected and impermanent, we can face these challenges with grace. One Buddhist teacher shared this perspective: when you understand emptiness, you stop fighting the waves of life. Instead, you learn to surf them. This doesn't mean life becomes easy, it means you become stronger, more flexible, and more compassionate with yourself and others. So, how can letting go bring us closer to peace and joy? What would it feel like to live without fear of loss or change? Let's uncover how emptiness leads us to deeper freedom. Yes, embracing emptiness can be challenging. But it's through these challenges that we find profound rewards, freedom, resilience, and a deeper connection to the world around us. The path may not always be easy, but it is deeply transformative, and it leads to a life filled with wisdom and peace. Section 7: Practical Applications of Emptiness. Emptiness isn't just a philosophical idea or a meditative experience, it's a perspective that can transform the way we live every day. By applying the understanding of emptiness, we can approach life's challenges with clarity, kindness, and ease. Application 1: Resolving conflicts. Think about the last conflict you had, maybe with a friend, family member, or coworker. It's easy to get caught up in blame, thinking, They're wrong. And I'm right. But emptiness reminds us that every situation arises from causes and conditions. The other person's behavior might stem from stress, misunderstandings, or their own struggles. And our reaction? That's shaped by our emotions, past experiences, and expectations. By seeing these interconnected causes, we shift from blaming to understanding. Instead of reacting with anger, we can respond with wisdom and compassion. This doesn't mean ignoring the problem, it means approaching it with clarity and care. Application 2: Handling criticism and impermanence. How do you feel when someone criticizes you? Most of us take it personally, letting it hurt our pride or self-esteem. But emptiness shows us that criticism, like everything else, arises from conditions. The criticism reflects the other person's perspective, shaped by their experiences and perhaps even their own struggles. And how we react to it, that's a reflection of our own insecurities or attachments. By understanding this, we can take criticism as an opportunity to grow rather than a reason to feel defeated. Similarly, we can handle life's impermanence, whether it's losing a job, a relationship, or even a cherished possession, with greater grace. We see that everything is temporary. And instead of clinging, we learn to let go. Application 3: Cultivating gratitude. One of the most beautiful ways to apply emptiness is by cultivating gratitude. When we understand interdependence, we realize how much of our life depends on others. Take the food you eat, for example. It's not just a meal, it's the result of countless causes: the farmer who grew the crops, the truck driver who delivered them, the people who prepared them. Even the air you breathe and the sunlight on your skin are gifts of this interconnected world. Recognizing this fills us with a profound sense of appreciation and wonder for the conditions that make life possible. Imagine approaching conflicts with wisdom, accepting change with ease, and seeing everyday moments as sources of gratitude. How would that change the way you live? Let's take this a step further. Emptiness isn't about detachment or denial, it's about engaging with life in a deeper, more meaningful way. By seeing the world as interconnected and impermanent, we can navigate challenges with wisdom, embrace change with grace, and live with a heart full of gratitude. Script, Section 8: Emptiness as the Path to Liberation. At its core, Buddhism is a path to liberation, a way to free ourselves from suffering and discover true peace. Emptiness lies at the heart of this path, not as a distant concept but as a living truth that transforms how we experience the world. The Buddha taught that clinging is the root of all suffering. We cling to ideas, possessions, relationships, and even our identity. But what happens when we cling to something impermanent? Eventually, it changes or fades, and we feel pain. Emptiness helps us let go, not by rejecting life, but by understanding it. When we see that nothing has a fixed essence, we stop trying to hold on so tightly. We learn to flow with life, embracing its beauty and impermanence without fear. One of the most liberating insights of emptiness is its perspective on death. Many of us fear death because we see it as the end of a solid, unchanging self. But when we understand that the self is a dynamic process, a collection of interdependent causes and conditions, we see death not as an end but as a transition. Imagine a candle flame. When it goes out, does it disappear entirely? Or does it transform into heat, light, and smoke? Emptiness shows us that just as life is interconnected and impermanent, so too is death. This understanding doesn't diminish the value of life, it enriches it, allowing us to live fully and fearlessly. The Buddha often used metaphors to teach about liberation. And one of the most beautiful is the lotus flower. A lotus grows out of muddy water, yet it blooms unstained and pure. This is the essence of emptiness as liberation. We live in a world of challenges and suffering. But by understanding emptiness, we can rise above it, not by escaping the mud, but by transforming it into wisdom and compassion. What would it feel like to live without fear of loss, change, or even death? Could understanding emptiness be the key to that freedom? Let's move toward the final piece of this profound teaching. Emptiness as the path to liberation is not about withdrawing from the world, it's about living fully, with clarity, wisdom, and compassion. By letting go of clinging, embracing impermanence, and understanding our interconnectedness, we discover a profound sense of freedom and peace. Section 9: Stories and Examples from Buddhist Teachings. Stories have a unique way of helping us understand profound truths. And Buddhism is filled with parables that illuminate the path of emptiness. These teachings, though ancient, remain deeply relevant to our modern lives. Let's explore some of these timeless examples. Story 1: The Empty Cup. There's a famous Zen story about a scholar who visited a Zen master to learn about enlightenment. The master began pouring tea into the scholar's cup. But even as the cup overflowed, the master kept pouring. The scholar cried out, "Stop! The cup is full, it can't hold any more." The master replied, "Exactly. And just like this cup, your mind is too full of ideas and assumptions. To experience truth, you must first empty your cup." This story reminds us that clinging to rigid beliefs or preconceptions blocks us from truly understanding emptiness. By letting go, we create space for wisdom and insight to flow. Story 2: The Four Blind Men and the Elephant. Another story tells of four blind men who encountered an elephant for the first time. Each touched a different part of the animal and described it. One felt the trunk and said it was like a snake, another touched the leg and said it was like a tree, the third touched the ear and thought it was like a fan, and the fourth felt the tail and believed it was like a rope. Each man was convinced he was right, but none could see the whole picture. This story reflects the teaching of emptiness. What we perceive is shaped by limited perspectives, influenced by countless conditions. To see the truth, we must step back and recognize the bigger, interconnected picture. Lesson: Transformation through emptiness. Another story tells of four blind men who encountered an elephant for the first time. Each touched a different part of the animal and described it. One felt the trunk and said it was like a snake, another touched the leg and said it was like a tree, the third touched the ear and thought it was like a fan, and the fourth felt the tail and believed it was like a rope. Each man was convinced he was right, but none could see the whole picture. This story reflects the teaching of emptiness. What we perceive is shaped by limited perspectives, influenced by countless conditions. To see the truth, we must step back and recognize the bigger, interconnected picture. Lesson: Transformation through emptiness. Let's return to the metaphor of the lotus flower. Imagine the challenges and struggles of life as the muddy water. Without the mud, the lotus cannot bloom. Similarly, by embracing life's difficulties and understanding emptiness, we can transform suffering into wisdom and compassion. This is not about avoiding the mud, it's about rising above it, unstained yet nourished by the very challenges we face. How can these stories apply to your own life? What would it mean to empty your cup or see beyond your limited perspective? Keep these questions in mind as we approach the final lesson. These stories are more than just teachings, they're mirrors for our own experiences. By reflecting on them, we can begin to see how emptiness is not a distant idea, but a living practice that transforms the way we understand and navigate the world. Section 10, Conclusion, Emptiness is Freedom. We've come to the end of this journey. But the teachings of emptiness are only the beginning of what you can explore in your own life. Throughout this video, we've seen how emptiness is not about loss or denial, but about discovering a profound sense of freedom, connection, and peace. Let's take a moment to reflect on what we've learned. Emptiness teaches us that nothing exists independently, everything arises due to causes and conditions. By embracing this truth, we can let go of rigid attachments and find inner freedom. Through meditation and mindfulness, we can experience the interconnected nature of life directly. Compassion naturally arises when we see that others' joys and struggles are deeply connected to our own. And finally, emptiness is the path to liberation, a way to transcend suffering and live with wisdom and grace. Now, it's your turn. How can you bring the wisdom of emptiness into your daily life? Try reflecting on the interdependence of simple things around you. Or perhaps begin a meditation practice to experience the fluid, interconnected nature of your thoughts. If this video resonated with you, please like, share, and subscribe to Sacred Buddha Wisdom. We'd also love to hear your thoughts. What did you learn from this exploration of emptiness? Leave a comment below and join the conversation. And don't forget to join us for our next video, where we'll delve even deeper into the path of liberation and explore how to apply these teachings to create a life filled with purpose and joy. You won't want to miss it. Emptiness is not something to fear, it's a gift. A truth that frees us from illusions and opens us to the beauty of life's impermanence and interconnection. As the Buddha said, the wise one, meditative and resolute, sees the way to freedom and walks it with joy. May we all find the courage to walk this path with open hearts and clear minds.